Okay. Did you all hear that American voice as well? So this is a bit of an experiment for me, so we'll keep asking questions. I just let Kirsty and Wanson Morris in as well from the waiting room.
Hello, Kirsty, Millie.
There's Kirsty waving, and there's Dan.
Millie waving.
Okay, Wanson Morris. Okay, so tonight I've just started recording this session, so just for those that have joined, and I thought we'd start about with John at about 7:10, just to give some stragglers some extra time to come in, and I found a mystery item, which is very strange, that I'll show you a picture of and see if you can guess what it's for. Don't know, just seemed fun to me. But the first talk, as I said, is John and the Steamettes. And they're going to talk about the Microbet, which really is a brilliant bit of kit. I think it was given to every year 7 a few years ago. And it's their generation's BBC computer that people of my generation first learned coding on. So a wonderful thing. And also John's going to talk about TinkerCAD, and particularly the aspect that helps you learn electronics. And then secondly, Paul is going to give us some expert tips on marketing with SEO. I won't say much about that because I don't know much about that. So that I'm looking forward to that. And then finally, Lee Berwick is an artist who should be joining soon, who's recently got into Arduinos and has been doing some interesting projects, not with frogs though anymore. And then when all that's finished, probably about 8:30 to 9 o'clock, then we can go into our usual social mode, bit of chit chat and that kind of thing. And I've even tried to get a little bit serious about that bit as well, I'm afraid. So see how that goes. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to show you the mystery item and leave that up on the screen for a little bit. So
USB hook.
Yeah, so it's labeled an electronic hook, and at the bottom there's a 5-volt 2-amp USB connector. And this is a real product. This isn't a photoshopped kind of fancy. You can buy this, and it does have a use actually. It's quite interesting. So let's see if you can figure that out.
Is it electromagnetic? So when you've got power to it, it sticks onto things?
Well, I'll reveal the answer at the end of today. This is my nefarious way of keeping you here until the bitter end.
It's good, yeah, you did have your ring, Matt. I like that. What was that? Do you remember a TV program from the 70s? They used to have weird gadgets and they'd sit around and sort of discuss it.
Oh, that sounds
about the same time as a Great Egg Race.
I love the Great Egg Race, but I can't remember the other one.
So that's an intelligent coat hook.
IoT coat hook. I wonder what that would be for.
It tells you whether you've to put your coat on the hook or not. That's useful.
That's genius. I don't know how I'm coping without that function in my life right now.
Right.
If it told me how heavy my coat was, then maybe I'd be able to tell where my keys were. If they're in my coat pocket, my coat might be a little bit heavier.
How much was it, Matt?
I haven't bought it.
Oh, come on.
Yet. Maybe I will.
Demo it. All right.
Well, I've got a YouTube video with a demo of it for later. Now I've said that out loud, it sounds ridiculous. Okay, so I am going to wait until 10 past. So there's another 3 minutes because here's Lee, our third speaker. So I'll have a bit of a chin wag with Lee, and then John, if you're ready to start, do you need to share your screen or anything like that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we'll say hello to Lee and then hand the screen over to you. Hello, Lee. Oh, okay. Hello, Lee. Hello, Lee. Lee. Can you hear us, Lee? I love Zoom. It's just connecting to audio, hopefully. Maybe we can hear him now. Yes. Yeah, there you go. Hello, Lee.
Hello, Matt. Hello. Yes, yes. Sorry, I'm not so good at Zooming, but there we are.
You made it this far, and this is about as far as you need to go, I think.
Okay.
So
Can you actually see me?
Yep, and hear you. Can you see my hook?
Oh, yeah, I see that. Yeah, what is that thing? A mystery item, in fact.
Yes, so it's an electronic hook with a USB connector at the bottom. And this is it's just a time filler until you arrive.
Oh, I'm sorry. I read that.
No, I'm joking. I do. There's also Millie, Caitlin, and Alice on the Steamettes.
Okay. Hello, you lot.
Hello.
And the Steamettes are going to give a talk with John right now on the Microbet and Tinkercad. So, John, if you'd like to share your screen, I'll hand over.
Oh, oh dear. Right. Have you got the BBC Microbet now on the screen?
No, we've got your voice.
All right, hang on. How can I get rid of this?
Oh,
Hang on.
Oh, that's, we got
there we
it now.
go.
Done.
Yeah.
I think it's working,
What have you
John.
got there then? Okay. Right.
Off you go, John.
Yep. Okay. Right, you are. Okay. So yeah, the BBC Microbit, they brought out a new version 2, all singing, all dancing. 5 years ago, every year 7 child was given one by the school. Some schools held on to the bits. Some schools gave the bits to the children to take home, and they immediately sold them on eBay. Right, so what can the BBC Microbit do? Well, the first thing it can do is teach youngsters how to code. And the best help for that is a guide by Citron, which is a company in Malaysia. We use them for the Maker that came with a guide as well. So the girls are used to this company. So EduBit, it has various chapters with various experiments, what to do. All right, so very, very helpful. And the first one there is Hello World, of course. Chapter 2, let's play rock, paper, scissors. So if Caitlin can take over the screen, and Caitlin, so if you start speaking, share your screen. Okay, over to you.
Share screen.
Set.
Hello, my name is Caitlin. Today I'm going to be telling you about the BBC Microbet. So the Microbet can do a number of activities. Although being small, it is a very powerful computer. You can use Word for Python, or you can use blocks for make codes. This device has 25 LED lights and 2 programmable buttons. Recently, I programmed my own game of rock, paper, scissors. So this is it. If you press shake, then it will go on to a random rock, paper, or scissors. And I also made a lives version where if you can press B if you lose the live, if you didn't win, and then you can go again and you can press A and B or the to show you how many lives you're on. This is the program, and this is program for the other one without the lives.
Can you show them the microphone?
Here's my Microbet. You can also do rock, paper, scissors on it. So his scissors. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Caitlin. Okay, can we go back to my screen? Okay, Matt, can you take us back to?
You have to do that, John. I can't.
How do I do that then? All right, yeah, that's it. Right. Yeah, so me and Caitlin, we can play together. If you press button A, so I've got scissors. So what have you got, Caitlin? Oh, you beat me then. Rock beats scissors. Okay, right. Okay. So back to share screen. All right, that's it. God, dear. Right. Okay, next slide. Yeah. So it's got pins at the bottom, output pins, and Alice made some traffic lights. So over to you, Alice. Alice,
hello, I'm Alice, and this is.
Yeah, that's it. Share your screen now. Have you got anything unscripted?
Wait, I can't see my own screen.
Just use that. Yeah. Can you how to do that?
Okay, so I did the traffic lights, and this is what I used. So we have this, and if you go down, this is just it zoomed in because it's very detailed, so you have to know where everything goes.
So what did we start with? Did we start by?
So we started by coding it using this on the blocks. The only problem with the code that they put is that it wasn't actually traffic lights, so it wasn't in the right order. So we had to change it up a little bit. So we copied the code, and then we figured out how to how it worked. So this is our code. And you can see these are the traffic lights here. So this is red, this is yellow, and this is green. So it starts with red, and then it goes to red and yellow, and then it goes to green, back to yellow, and back to red. and we wanted a loop, so we used forever. And so the good thing with this is that we knew that the code was correct because we saw that it was working. So we had to just put the wires in on the breadboard, and
We're going to show you.
so this is what we've done. So there are a lot of wires. These are the LEDs.
Yes. Are they working?
They're not working right now.
I don't know why. They were, weren't they?
Yeah, they were working a minute ago.
I don't know why they're not working.
But they do work.
Yeah, they did work. We're going to try and make them work again. I don't know why they... are they working now? No.
Nope.
Okay, maybe we can get back to you when they work. I'm trying again. No.
Nope.
Sorry.
This happens with every live demo to everyone.
Yes, it does. It really does.
Okay, yeah, let's not to worry.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you? I just wanted to add that what I found really, really interesting was that it was a first step. That what was nice, as Alice said, is that because we could see the coding was working, that encouraged us to change, to make small changes every time and be able to see how good it would, that it worked. And then this way, when we went onto the board, we knew that our coding was right. So we were not thinking, what is wrong in the coding? We knew it was right. So we knew that when we had problems, it was with really the wiring or anything like this. And then we thought, even if we want to go on to something more challenging and we want to go on to coding in Python or using Arduino, then we already know we've succeeded in the first step. So it makes the process, it breaks up the process. And I think for beginners, it's really nice. So we really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And not just for beginners, it's a fundamental principle of software writing. Change a little bit and make sure it works before you wade on, because you can get yourself tied up into such knots if you try and change too much all at once. So it's a very important lesson that I need to be reminded of a lot.
What did you say, Alice, you really enjoyed?
Well, it's very exciting when you actually start figuring out how it works, because you're thinking, there's actually hope that I can do this. And after you've actually done all the coding, you just look at it and you think, wow, I've done that. It just feels like such a big achievement.
Well done.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, you on. So if you unshare your screen, Alice, stop sharing. That's it. Okay. Right. So yeah, that was thanks to Simon Monk. Some of you may have come across his books. Very, very good. Right. So what else can we do with the Microbet? We can do lots of science experiments. And we go over to Millie and Kirsty, who actually set this experiment up. So what is this experiment then, Millie? So over to you.
We have created a circuit and coded the microbit to tell us how clean or dirty a glass of water is, depending on how much light will go through it and reach the light sensor. We have an LED on one side of the box with the light sensor on the other. When we put a glass of water in, close the lid and turn the LED on, the sensor should measure the light reaching it.
Okay. Did
So
it work?
how did you find it working with the Microbet? Did you like the block coding?
I like using block coding because it's easier than writing the whole code out.
Makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Thank you, Millie and Kirsty. Yeah. Okay. So if you stop sharing your screen, stop sharing.
I don't think they started sharing, John. I think you can just share your screen now.
Right, okay, yeah, I'll do mine now. Okay, right you are. Yeah, so lots of opportunities there for youngsters to experiment with coding and science experiments. There are lots of sensors on the Microbet. Okay, so yeah, and there's I think as Alice said, that you can go from block code, which is nice and easy, no spelling mistakes. You can progress to micro Python, and that's where the new Microbet comes in, because you don't need to connect speakers from these pins as you did with the old one. With the new one, there's a speaker built in and a microphone. So if I plug this into the power, that's it. Is anyone birthday today? No, no one's birthday, no. Right, so that was written in MicroPython. Okay, so it can do a lot more than an Arduino on its own. It can listen, it's got a microphone, it can speak to you in sentences, and of course it can play music. Right, we've seen some of the pins being used for the traffic lights. So the pins can be inputs or outputs. You can take advantage of all the pins. This is a breakout board. Plug in the Microbet there and you can use all the pins available. It can pretend it's an Arduino, which is really cool. Right, so you can code in C, and Lady Ada website will show you how to change your Microbet into an Arduino. And if you look at the tools, the boards, there it is, BBC Microbet. Cool. So the girls have been using the Arduino or the Maker Uno, and they're familiar with digital write high, digital write low. So yeah, just make sure you put the semicolon in at the end. Yeah. By the way, welcome to Joe and Julie from Australia. Nice to see you here. Right. One of the things it can do is send serial data to the processing program back again. Okay, so I've been, yeah, thumbs up from Tim there. Tim is a processing fan. Yeah, genetic move, and Nicola. So this is a little program I did. You can see on the left here, you've got the Arduino code. On the right, you've got the processing code. And down the bottom here, you've got red, green, and blue. And there's a square on the screen. So if you see that, if you press key R, the red LED gets brighter and brighter, and you get red on this square, right? And what I've got there then is blue and green. It gives you the numbers at the bottom there on the serial monitor, and giving you cyan. So yeah, the BBC Microbet is as good as the Arduino, if not better. Ooh, and there again is red and green. That is red down there. Red and green. so it's got Bluetooth built in, so you can connect to the Internet of Things. Again, Lady Ada help you with that. You set up an account with Adafruit, and you have to install one of their libraries, and you can do logging. You can get all those sensors to take readings, right? And it can be controlled from your phone. Okay, so your phone can pick up the data, you'll be measuring the temperature, and you can send it then to their website, and you can actually plot it on their website. So that's really impressive. Internet of Things. So what can the BBC Microbit do? It can do lots of things. The girls have learned how to code, and they'll be going on to MicroPython. I'll get them to convert it to an Arduino because they're used to it, and then they can. We've been looking at processing. You enjoy processing, don't you, Alice? Alice, she's not looking. They had fun last weekend doing processing, and yeah, thumbs up. Yeah, they love that program. So we'll show them how to use the BBC Microbit for processing and the Bluetooth, the Internet of Things. If you want Wi-Fi, you can do that. I came across this today. So this is X in a box. Right, these boards you connect up to the BBC Microbit, so you can have Wi-Fi connection to the Internet of Things. And this X in the Box company, they've run experiments with children in Africa, and they've got their X in the Box on a satellite, went up to the space station. So other things you can do with your Microbit, you can put it onto a bitbot, make it into a robot. So Christine likes the idea of that. Yeah, that's cool. Not too expensive, and code it to go around the place, and even a wristwatch. How about that? Okay, so that's it. Any questions?
Do you think the Arduino's got anything that the Microbit doesn't?
Well, let me think. It's got more inputs and outputs. Yeah, so you could have lots more LEDs. Here you're only limited to 3.
But all in all, the Microbit does sound better.
Well, it's only what well, with the VAT and posting, just under 20 quid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah. Any other comments?
Did you have it running off a battery in one of those?
Yes.
photos?
Yes. Yeah, we've got a battery. Yeah.
Is that just a couple of AA batteries?
Yep.
It's very convenient.
It is. Yes. Can you do that with the Arduino so easily? No.
I think this is going to turn into a head-to-head Microbit versus the Arduino when Lee gets to speak later on. So
I've got a question.
Oh, right, yeah.
So why do you think the focus, John, now is for getting young people into being engineers? Why do you think the focus is electronics as opposed to coding? Back in the BBC Micro, the emphasis was more on coding. Now it seems to be more electronics. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's physical computing, isn't it? It's a combination of both. You do need to know a bit of electronics. You've got to have the resistor and the LED the right way around, all that kind of stuff. So you learn the electronics at the same time as coding. You know, they should be giving these new versions out to kids now. You know, I don't know.
Is electronics better than coding, John?
About the same.
Oh.
Right. Okay.
Thanks.
Right, you are.
Thanks for that, John, and especially the Steamettes.
Yes, they did well.
Yeah,
didn't they?
fantastic
Yeah.
work.
Really,
Yeah,
really
well done,
good.
girls. Yeah. Hmm.
And I think a lot of what you've done is what people who do that kind of thing for a living do. They just do it a lot more often. So I've given many demonstrations that haven't worked and felt that horrible moment where it's not working. But
So where's Alice? Has she got it going now? She left.
yeah,
I think
and
she's left
that,
now, yeah.
I think someone said
Yeah.
they had a look at the code and it didn't quite do what they wanted it to do. So they had to find out how it worked and then change it. And
Yes. Yes.
yeah,
Simon Munt. Yes,
that is
they were using
engineering,
his
isn't it?
program and he didn't have it quite right. He didn't have the traffic lights right. So they had to correct him on that. Yeah.
But I always
Can I
find
add
it.
a comment, John?
Yeah, go on. Yeah.
Getting back to the BBC Model B, you talk about hardware. The Model B actually had an analog port way back then,
Yeah.
which was primarily for a joystick. But of course, I used to use it for measuring temperatures and using the digital I/O to start and stop motors
It did. Yeah.
and turtles and things like that. So in its day, it could do code and it could do hardware as well,
It
which
could,
was
yeah.
the reason why I bought it, actually.
Mm.
I learned a lot from that.
Yes. Or somebody like Mark Ebden. Mark Ebden?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the Raspberry Pi man. He coded on the BBC microcomputer, and that's why he made the Raspberry Pi to encourage kids into coding.
I've still got the Acorn Atom, which was a precursor to,
Right.
which I built from a kit. Built it in a night. Fantastic machine, but of course the Model B was much better. But the stuff you can get now is just fantastic. The Arduino, the Pico, the Microbet. It just goes on and on. There's just so much cheap electronics out there. People are spoiled.
So Alice and Christine, if you powered up your traffic lights from the computer, that might make it work. Maybe the battery is a bit low.
Well,
Right.
we've done both. We've powered it from the computer and on the batteries, and it works now.
Oh, well, let's see it in action then.
Yes, just
Please.
show Alice. And
Yeah.
I think it was just a bad connection.
Yes.
But the only problem is still the LED is the green LED is very, very faint. So faint that you can hardly see that it works, which is a little bit of a pity because, you know, the rest of them are really bright. We tried to change the brightness and we did put the brightness to 255, but it didn't change anything. We changed the LED we changed twice, but no difference. So I don't know. I've read somewhere that you can get brighter LEDs, but I don't know. I don't know if
Have you got
that's
the right resistor in series? Is it red, red, brown, or is it a different value?
Maybe have we made a mistake there? Let's have a look. Check, Alice.
It could be a high resistor.
Try just swapping two of the resistors round, like swap the resistor going to the green LED with the one going to the yellow, and see if that yellow goes dim.
Okay, let's try that. Shall I unplug it first? Okay.
Oh, this is live troubleshooting. Who'd have thought it?
Whilst we're waiting for them to figure it out, Matt, one of the talks we like to do for Thanet Technology is amateur radio and all the possibilities. Yes, Joe and Julie, as you know, are keen amateur radio enthusiasts, and I'm sure they would contribute as well.
Excellent.
So, yeah, so lots of geekiness.
Yeah, very, very good.
Yeah.
I did AM radio at school years ago.
You did radio?
AM radio. I built an AM radio.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Receiver.
Yeah.
I think Dan, if he's still listening, has a lot of experience with ham radio as well.
Yes, I think he has a call sign, but gave it up. M0EKB, there you go.
Oh, it's on the...
Oh, EBK, that's a mistype. Echo Bravo Kilo.
Hi,
Sorry, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Is there a ham radio Zoom plugin of some sort, I wonder, without any understanding of possibilities? Anyway, okay. Well, thank you very much, Steamets, and a little bit, John.
Cool.
You did all of the hard work, the Steamets, obviously.
It works.
It
It works.
works.
The
There's a
changing
wrong
the
resistor. Yeah.
yes, it works. So we'll show you.
Oh, a bit of tech joy.
Camera around.
Okay, sorry. Red,
Yeah.
red and amber, green.
Hey.
Thank you so much.
You should get an extra point for doing that in front of so many people. Under pressure.
Now, but one thing, Caitlin's a bit modest. She doesn't want to boast, but her name is now on Mars.
Cool. Oh, on one of those
Yeah.
chips. Fabulous.
It is, yeah.
That's amazing. Well done.
Well done, Caitlin. Yeah.
One of not that many people, considering it's about 10 million people had
10
their
million
names
people. Yeah, yeah.
written on silicon, bolted to the Perseverance, isn't it? Wow, I'm impressed with that. And actually, I'm jealous. That's really good.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
NASA invited everyone to send their names in.
Wow.
Mm.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, John. Did you you were going to talk about TinkerCAD
Right.
and electronics?
Yeah.
Would you like to do that tonight?
Yeah, can do. Maybe after someone else's.
Okay.
Give you a chance to have a drink.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Let me just change my screen
Yeah.
back to this. Okay. So this was John's presentation, and there's a bit of a bio at the bottom that I should have shown before, but I don't think you're quite retired. I would say that's a bit of a. I don't think you're really retired. You've just changed what you do slightly.
I could do the TinkerCAD now if you wanted. The girls are still up, but they going to school tomorrow. Or Caitlin is. The other two, Millie and Alice, are homeschooling. So they're familiar with TinkerCAD. We've done a bit. So Caitlin.
Yep. Do you want to do the TinkerCAD now then with the girls?
Yeah. Well, they're not contributing, but we've done some stuff with them.
Okay.
Okay. So share screen. Share screen. Share. Right. Yeah. We there? Yeah. Learning electronics with TinkerCAD. Why would you want to learn electronics with TinkerCAD, for goodness sake? for checking things, because you should be doing it for real. This is only virtual, but we did have a bit of fun. We did wonder what would happen if you put an LED to a battery. You don't get any sound effects, but it does blow up. But one of the things about this TinkerCAD is the connections. That's a bit awkward, isn't it? Crossing over like that, but there you go. So if you put a resistor in, it's fine. If you have too low a resistance, you get an exclamation mark. That's telling you that the current is too high and it would shorten the life. So it's not blowing up, but it's got a high current. And you can put an ammeter in, measure the current, right? And now instead of a battery, I've got a variable power supply. You can change the voltage, but this is one of the problems with a simulator. When I change the LED to a red one, would you expect for the same voltage, the same current? No. So what would you expect if you change the blue one to a red one? Would you get more current flowing or less current? Ah, anyone know? No? What does Alice think?
Does the red one take more energy?
No, it's the other way around. The blue one needs more energy. So with a red LED, same voltage, you get more current. So it's not a good simulation in that respect. Do you have an oscilloscope at home? No. You can simulate one. And right, so you can change the waveform to square, sine, or zigzag. And you can change the frequency and see what it does to the wave. So that's quite cool, just simple connection. Yeah. Oh, I think Alice and Chris are thinking, oh, well, we've got to try that then. Yeah. Right. Right, what have we got here in the circuit? What's it done to the waveform? It's cut off the negative cycle. So it's a diode and only letting the positive cycle through. Current can only go one way through the diode. Ah, there you go, yeah. You can use the BBC Microbet and you can check out their code. You can copy it if you like one of their standard experiments. This one is using the magnetometer, and that's the compass direction for north. And you move it around and you get different directions. You can simulate 2 microbits and they can send radio signals to each other. So you get a smiley face or a sad face, depending on the signal. You can simulate an Arduino. And this is a Blink program using block code, or you can use C. Yeah, digital write high, digital write low. Okay, so there are lots of examples of Arduino circuits which you can look at and say, oh, I'd like to try that. Here's another one. This is the analog in to a variable resistor, potentiometer, and you move the slider and you get the readings come out here. So that's similar to Millie's experiment, where you had 3 volts across the circuit with the LDR and resistor, and the middle point goes to the input, and that gives you your reading. So very simple program there. What else we got? Right, finally then a signal generator. You put it's a piezo buzzer thing, connect it to the signal generator, and you can change the frequency. And it's not very good, not like the real thing. The girls have had a chance to use a proper signal generator and loudspeaker, and they found they got very good hearing, unlike mum. For this one, you can get different tones out. It's not too bad. Okay, so overall then, it's TinkerCAD is a useful program for getting some code, trying things out, but it's a bit limited. Okay, so give it a try. Yep, that's the end.
Excellent, thank you, John. Just to finish that off, TinkerCAD is a web page, tinkercad.com, and there's a number of tools there, including this electronic simulator.
3D modeling, yeah.
Yeah, so I use TinkerCAD. It's aimed at education, so it seems like it is a very simple, easy, intuitive interface to do 3D modeling and electronics and those kind of things. But it is a really good tool. I use it a lot just to run up a fairly simple 3D model, or even laser cutting kind of profiles in TinkerCAD. It's a really useful tool because it's very easy to use, and I don't have to relearn it every time I want to do something. So it's easy to get into and really useful. And I think the electronics simulation goes a lot deeper into more complicated circuits potentially. So it's I think most people just scratch the surface of what that tool can do. So a great way to learn, but also a valid pro tool, actually. So thank you, John.
Okay, you're welcome. That's it. Yeah.
Does anyone else have any other questions before we move on to Paul?
I don't think this would be relevant to the girls. So should we say goodnight to the girls?
Yes, we just wanted to say a big thank you to you, John, for giving us
You're
the
welcome.
opportunity to participate, and thank you for you all for having us. Thank you for your input. You know, we've really enjoyed it, and you know, we'll carry on definitely.
Excellent work, girls. Fantastic.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
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 Thank you. Brilliant.
Okay. Right, follow that, Paul. So, so Paul is going to talk to us about marketing with SEO, and there's a bio for Paul there, but I won't steal your thunder and over to you, Paul.
No, indeed, no. It's so I've knocked some of these together in a couple of hours. I've only got about 4 slides. It's going to be a lot less visual than John's, I'm afraid. It's mostly me talking. So we'll see how long it goes on for. Not too long, I hope. But yes, so basically, this is a chance to talk about SEO. And if you look at doing any online business, or if you've got a blog, if you've got a site for your restaurant, anything like that, you want, or indeed the Geekery website, you want to have a way in which you can get people to see it. And SEO stands for search engine optimization. And simply what it means is optimizing your website so the search engines show it higher in the results. The results are often called SERPs, which stands for search engine results pages. I should warn you, it's an acronym blizzard out there. But essentially, SEO is about improving your site structure, writing good, useful content on your site and other sites, and getting as many backlinks as possible. That is, links coming back into your website. And the more links that you have coming from good quality pages, the more that you will rise in the search engine results, the SERPs, and the more traffic you will therefore get coming to you. In terms of the backlink building, it takes months and years for the search engines to spot the pages and rank them. And I'll have an example of that later on. In fact, there's 2, because there's my site as well, and I'm still in the foothills. So the thing is, if you are trying to do that, if you're trying to promote whatever it is you're doing, your blog, your website, your business, you need to start as soon as possible, because there is a huge delay. There is a delay between your website becoming trusted, it getting content that the search engines like. They begin to sort of put you into the results pages more and more, and you'll start out at page 56, and you'll sort of slowly creep up for a whole bunch of different keywords that will be written into the search engines, which I'll come back to in a minute. Sorry if this is too basic for some people, but I don't know what level anybody's at, so I'm just going to take it from the basics. I've also busily just edited this to try and make it a little more youngster friendly, and they've now gone. So it's probably a good thing anyway. So there was 1 or 2 jokes I was going to put in later on, but anyway, I digress. So if you want to have a good overview of the basics of what SEO can entail, there's a link called learningseo.io, which I've got this page, which I'm reading from now. I will be giving that in the chat later on, so you can go and see it. I'll keep it up for a week or so if you want to go and peruse it. But more importantly, I think if I just give an example of what I'm talking about, if I can find that. Lovely. So hopefully everybody can see that. And I will just go back to, right. Okay. So what this is an overview of what's involved in search engine optimization, and ultimately comes down to 2 parts. It's on page and off page. I've realized it's very slightly wrong in some areas, and I'm not going to go through, well, I'll skip through it, but I'm not going to go through it in massive detail because we just don't really have the time. Meta tags are things like the title bar and descriptions. That actually doesn't matter for search engine optimization. but never mind. We've got keyword density here. It's important about it looking good, to be frank, that is important. Keyword density is how many keywords you've got on the page. Robots.txt, a whole load of technical gubbins I'm not going to go massively into. Silos, I will come back to later. And then the off-page side of it. So this is all what happens on your site with the on-page SEO. And then the one on the right, the off-page, is to do with how the search engines are viewing what's coming onto your page. So it's a matter of setting up RSS feeds so that people see it, although that's frankly a bit out of date because nobody seems to use them these days. But directory submission, so people in other directories can know that your website exists. Bookmarking, article marketing, press releases, forum and blog commenting, going to forums and then pinging back to your own page, and some forum posting as well. But most importantly of all of that is about making sure that you've got good content on your page. That is the absolute fundamental of it. And I put this image on at the last minute, about 15 minutes before we started. It's good, but it's out of date because a lot of this, not the on-page stuff, but a lot of the off-page stuff has simply been subsumed by you need to have good content on your page, on your pages. So one of the things I'm not going to talk about is advertising because it's a bit of a dark art. It's very easy to get wrong. I think it's a bit like a casino. They'll give you the rules, but it's very easy to get the rules not wrong necessarily, but just not to interpret them the way that you need to. And it's very easy to go into advertising on Facebook or Google, which between them account for about 3/4 of all of the advertising online spend that exists in the world, which is quite horrifying. But when you go to either of their systems, there's always some nuances and subtleties hidden within them that you won't realize and that can actually make the difference between a good campaign and a bad one. Importantly, that's really part of what's called SEM, which is search engine marketing. The optimization side of it is officially part of that. So SEM is a broader umbrella term, but the reality is when people talk about SEM, they nearly always mean the advertising bit of it as opposed to SEO. Social media is something else that I'm not going to talk about because there's an awful lot to it, and it is like screaming into a wind tunnel at times where nothing happens. And I'm delighted to say that there's even experts who I will quote later on showing that this is now the case. For a while, you know, if you posted something on Twitter or Facebook, Google and Bing and everybody else would go, oh, it's amazing, they've got social media traffic, this is phenomenal, and you shoot up the rankings. They're sort of wise to it now, and social media is now just a huge amount of, it's almost useful just for branding rather than actually getting anybody to see your website. It's just so that they see your name and they understand that you exist. So very briefly about me, as Matt said, I started in the 20th century when the world was in black and white. And I've been a software developer since then. And I've sold software from 2004, but really on the side. And this is now the first time that I'm doing it full-time for myself. I started my website the beginning of 2018. I did nothing with it. I hired a marketing company at the beginning of last year. I had no website visitors really at that point because I'd done nothing with it apart from having a couple of pages up saying, hey, this is me and I'm going to be building this software. But because of the marketing company and what I was producing under their tutelage, like the content that they wanted me to produce or suggested that I produce, which is highly technical, and they couldn't do it for me, but they suggested that I do it. In August, I had 24 visitors a day. I'm now getting 62 visitors a day. This is, of course, very small beer according to or relating to other websites, but it's a start. And I'll come to this later on. But I'm now ranking for 900 keywords that come in. And my biggest competitor ranks for 50,000. That means that they are in the results for 50,000 different keyword terms that people type in. So massively more than myself. Keywords are critical to SEO. It's really about what you do and when you type in something to the search engines. The keywords are the things that you type in. Ironically, of course, they're actually not words, they're phrases. But nearly always, it's not just one word that we type in anymore. At the beginning it was, but these days with the internet, we are all used to typing in 3, 4, 5-word phrases, but they're just called keywords. It's very easy to think of the shorter keywords that you will sort of understand and think works for you, and that it's going to be great if you can get to the top of the page, top of the SERPs for that particular search engine keyword phrase. So for example, News UK, there might be a whole load of newspapers that come up, but that's the problem. It's very competitive to get into it. And getting your site onto the first page of the SERPs is really, really tricky. So the long tail is a term used to describe the longer search terms, like 4 words or more, that people type in. So the example might be ferrets on acid in Newcastle, right? Not many people type that in. It's a pretty unusual idea, but you know, because of that, it would be very easy to rank for it. So you could create a page talking about ferrets on acid, ferrets, I should say, on acid in Newcastle on your highly respected website that has got some sort of authority, and that the search engines like. Mention the phrase a few times in the page, put some nice content about ferrets on acid in Newcastle, and you'll probably be on the first page of Google within a month or 2 or 3. It will happen very quickly because it's so rare, because no one else is actually really trying to rank for that page. Now, if you do that for one page, it's not going to do much for your site. But if you do that many times, you will actually get traffic coming to your site. There's a chap called Rand Fishkin, who is the co-founder of Moz, that's a search engine optimization agency, and they do lots of consultancy work, and they have systems to help that you can subscribe to that help you to do SEO. He does a good slideshow that I've put a link into in this document, but he talks about a woman called Geraldine, and she started her travel blog and called everywhereist.com in 2009, and she didn't get more than about 100 visitors a day for 2 years. And then she had a couple of moments of massively increased traffic, went up to like 10,000 visitors, and she must have thought, wow, this is phenomenal. And then it slumped. And as Rand Fishkin pointed out, this is, oops, a daisy, oh wait, hang on, I'm screen sharing, there. No, there we are. Does that make sense? Can you see that? I'd say you can. Let me just zoom in. As he said, this is where most people give up. And it's at this point after 2 big bumps, which look like big bumps at the time, and then it slumps down again, and you think, sod it, I'm giving up. This has been over 2 years. I've had enough. But in reality, she carried on, and she's now getting 100,000 visitors a day. So, oops. Zoom that in. Perseverance is really important. One of the things that's changed in more recent years, and it's not been as recent as I thought it was, actually, it's been the last 4 or 5 years, is people have started talking about topic clusters and silos. They're the same thing. So normally when people talk about content, they talk about putting your content onto blog posts. So you've got your main site that does, here's our widgets, we love our widgets, here's everything about widgets. And you've got the about pages, and you've got privacy pages, and you've got the pricing page. But then you've got this separate content, which is really blog posting, and you say, you know, what we love about widgets, or you start to work out what the keywords are that people are actually searching for. Well, now, instead of putting those into blog pages, you put blog posts, I should say, you put them into pages, which aren't necessarily obvious to the visitor who hits the homepage, but it allows you to create these topic clusters. So what you would do, for example, is you create a topic cluster around ferrets on acid, and then you could have within that sub pages, one called ferrets on acid in Newcastle, another one ferrets on acid in Croydon, etc. What you can then do is create sibling topics like ferrets eating chocolate, and you can have all the subcategories there: dark chocolate, white chocolate. They interlink to one another and ultimately come up to the biggest topic page of all, which would be real life ferrets. And then you've got this concept of all of these interlinked pages, and you come at the end of it with an increase in the search engine results, because what they're seeing is not just a page, but a page which is connected to another page which is related. And because you're doing the semantic link for them, it's something that they reward effectively. And one of these links that I've got here, which is from a lady called Anam Hussain, who did a presentation about topics and keywords, pointed out how well that works, because, oops, a daisy, no, there we are. So that's it there. And this is about the more links that you have inside your website, the greater your impressions will be in the search engine's results pages. Now, obviously, there are some further down here which aren't doing well at all. There are some further up with lots of internal links that aren't doing well. But if you notice, the ones that are doing well have all got more internal links. So it's not just a matter of creating the content, it's interlinking it and making sure that effectively what you're saying to Bing and Google is you've got like a spider's web. You've got a whole array of different pages which, when linked together, show a coherent story that's useful for any visitor. Now, the visitor may only hit one of those pages, but Google and Bing will reward you because they're seeing that you are trying to provide a comprehensive solution to what they've got. And what they are attempting to do in their search engine results is they want you to see, they want you as a customer to see something which will satisfy your request as swiftly as possible. So if you go to hit a web page and it goes, oh, we've got information about stuff, and you go, oh, okay, and you go back, and then you decide again that because that what information wasn't enough, then you click the second link and you come back, and the third link and you come back. You're actually going to be less interested and less impressed with the search engine than you otherwise could be. I mean, it's great that you're seeing their page all the time, but you're not actually going to be satisfied, and it's not going to give you a feeling of, aha, you solved my problem. So what you're looking for with this is a way, or what the search engines are looking for is a way in which they can get you as a customer to click on a link and go, oh, this is good enough, this is what I wanted. Oh, this website's also got another link to somewhere else, to another page that actually gives even more detail. So that's the gist of what's going on behind the scenes.
Does that mean if you've got a really long page, you should break it up into smaller bits?
It depends. That's a really tricky question, because I've seen search engine search optimization guys. Some of them have said, yeah, keep it short and snappy, and others have said do 5,000 words. And there was one, I think it was Active Campaign, who are an email management company, and the email system, messaging system that I use to send out emails. They had a blog post that went really in depth on something, and I did actually read it ages ago, and then I'd forgotten that I'd read it. And they pointed out that they had very few people reading it, but one person who read it was from a big company, and they signed one of their biggest customers and one of their biggest deals because of it. Because this guy, whoever it was at this company, had just looked at it and gone, wow, this is a huge page, a huge post filled with all this information. This company knows what they're doing. So, if you can get that in, yes, but certainly never pad it out. And I think what you need to do is focus on, it's a judgment call, but how focused is the topic itself? If you're going to talk, if you're going to post on, animal husbandry, you're actually much better off having one on pigs, one on ducks, one on chickens, and then linking it to a topic cluster talking about animal husbandry.
So the example I'm thinking of, quite often, if we've got a technical article, it'll have quite a long walkthrough on how to do something.
Yeah.
And on some websites, I often see they break those up into, say, 5 parts and say, hey, part 1 this week, and then a period of time later they'll release part 2 and so on, and then they'll go back and they'll set up the links between them. Whereas perhaps I would have been inclined to write that up all as one post. Yeah.
I would agree with you. Yeah, I think, because one of the things that's important, I think, is that, and this isn't, nothing is guaranteed, but one of the things that I've read loads of times is that people don't really like clicking. They'll prefer to scroll rather than click. And the danger is, if you're saying to people, click here to get the next thing, they'll just go, no. And otherwise, they're much more likely to scroll down if you've got a comprehensive answer to something. So I think in that situation, yeah, I think it's just that if you've got subtopics that are actually their own specialized bit, then no, split it up. But if it's all just one complicated thing, yes, I would say put it all in, because one of the other things that Google's doing now is that they're saying, it's a bit weird, but effectively what they're saying is, when you go to a particular, trying to think how to describe it. No, my mind's got a blank. I'll come back to it if I may, because they've got some. They're changing the rules all the time, but they've effectively, what they've said is they're trying to pass paragraphs rather than just the quote or the line that they think somebody's interested in. So if you've got a paragraph talking about red widgets and in the middle of it you talk about green bananas, they're not going to be so impressed if somebody types in green bananas. They're not going to think that's the page for us, because they want something that's really coherent, that's just talking about green bananas all the way through.
Yeah.
And so it's that focus is really important. But yes, then splitting it up too much is yeah, I think I would tend to think that's pretty old school. I don't think there's any search engine optimization people who would say that that's a good idea these days. I'm no expert, I hasten to add. It's just what I've learned over the years, but yeah.
Paul, what about other media? Video seems to be much more popular.
Yeah.
And images a bit more hooky compared to text now.
It can be, absolutely, and I think you can put tags into the videos now on YouTube, for example, so that they can actually be found, and that's become more and more of a thing. I think with all of these things, it's a matter of, does it work for the area that you're in? You know, if you're doing something on 3D printing, that makes sense. It's a visual thing. People can see it happening. You can take video of it. You can speed it up to, treble time or something to make it look really whizzy. And it's, and it will become quite viral and people will be interested in it. If you're talking about, if you're selling furniture, somebody walking with a video camera around a piece of furniture probably isn't going to gain that much interest. And certainly for me, for what I do, I'm selling software for software engineers. It's not visual. I've done videos, actually. I've got a couple on YouTube just because you kind of have to, but I've not had many people watching it. And it's interesting how you can put it on the home page, and even then you kind of think there's a lot of people just going, yeah, no, not, I'm just not really interested in seeing it. I almost get the impression they like seeing the fact that there is a video, but virtually nobody watches it. So, but one of the people I'm going to recommend later on is Neil Patel. He's a SEO guy and marketing chap, and he's had like a million hits on some of his videos. He's just got a huge number of people watching it because of the information he's giving away. But he does like 10-minute videos, him talking to a camera, and there are certain things you need to do, like introduce yourself and do the classic thing of the presentation, talk about what you're going to talk about, then talk about it, and then conclude with what you talked about, which I've ignored on this particular presentation, but it is a rule. But I think it's one of those things, it's horses for courses. Similarly, with social media, if you, like I have a friend who's an antiques dealer who's in his 60s and isn't interested in technology, but I said to him, and he was struggling for a bit to make sales, and I said, for God's sakes, do Pinterest, right? Because in Pinterest, the demographic skews towards women, middle-aged with money. It's absolutely perfect for somebody going, oh, I think a lovely little piece of furniture or an interesting, art trinket or a historical trinket or something. It's perfect for that. And he's got a friend who's in fact got a Pinterest site. On the other hand, for me, 90% of my customers are male. They tend towards being young. They're not, necessarily rich. Going on Pinterest would be kind of meaningless. So I think the danger with these things is going. People say you need to get into X, Y, and Z with the best possible intent, but unfortunately, then a lot of people who shouldn't actually necessarily do it go in and do precisely that. As a sidebar, I have a friend who has an MBA, and he for years and years and years he's been doing this kind of lean startup. So the idea is like making the minimum product and get it out and try to get funding for it and venture capital and all the rest of it. And he just threw that idea away recently because he just said, everybody says you should do this. But he said, I found a different way. And he went to the principal of a college and said, look, I've got this idea for a piece of software. Do you want to fund, here's the proposal. Do you want to fund me putting it together? And she did. So he had money from day one. And it's like, it's completely against all the rules. Like the rules of startup are you get funding or you bootstrap it yourself, but you do a minimum product, then you get it out onto the market. And he went, no, I just want to get paid for coming up with the idea and doing it. So he did, and he's building it, and it's going to be, I'm sure, successful. He's a bright man. I think there's so much noise out there about do this, or should I say signal? It's not noise, it's signal saying, this is the way. It's like, well, yeah, sometimes. But I think it would work for 3D printing, definitely, without a doubt. Right, yes. So what else was I going to do? So I was going to say, I've been on screen sharing all the time, haven't I? Sorry, I didn't realize that. Right, lovely. Okay, so So beyond that, we've got things like the section I've entitled "Just Say No to Cannibalization." Cannibalizing your results is when you have a page for green bananas and you realize people are also searching for bananas green, so you do another page for it, but it's exactly the same keywords. The search engines penalize it, so you shouldn't do that, but doing one page for green bananas and another one for red bananas is fine. Just don't ever kind of mix the two, or try to do variations of the same keywords. You can go and hire somebody. I have last year hired somebody to do a whole lot of work for me. It was useful. I think my pause on this is that a lot of what they will do for you, either you're a big enough business that you can hire a marketing director and you really don't need to think about it, although Richard Branson said he spends a quarter of his time thinking about marketing, or you can be somebody who's hands-on, which I suspect we all are, in which case you're probably going to need to learn about it yourself. So in the end, you might find that you've employed somebody, but they're actually, or you've got a consultancy going with somebody for a grand or two a month, but actually there's a lot of it that you need to know yourself. It's great to have the steer that you can get from them. That's fantastic. But it doesn't really help necessarily to go any further than that. And what I would suggest is to instead spend a bit of money every month on either Hike SEO or Deeb. It's a terrible name, DIIB. I've got the links here. I'll show you later. That are both good, and they both sort of look at your site from afar, from the cloud, analyze it, come up with things that are right, things that are wrong. And I prefer Hike. I think Deeb is just very verbose. But on the other hand, if you want something done, like you can, I had a brief sort of 6-month trial of their professional level, and that gave me the ability to contact them and ask them to do work for me. And so I got them to do a backlink survey of my two best competitors, and they gave me 40,000 backlinks that my competitors have got. The idea being, I can go through the list, see if anything is appropriate for me, contact the webmaster and say, hey, would you like to have a link to my site? The vast majority will say no, but one or two will, and that will help. So that's pretty cool. Hike has also got something in it called Help a Reporter Out. This is a system that allows reporters to come along and say, hey, I need information on blog. And I've got published a couple of times in places through looking at that every morning and occasionally spending an hour trying to write up some reasonable copy explaining in my area an answer to their questions. So they might say, you know, what are good interview questions for a software developer? And I'll respond with a few questions that I can think of that would be good questions and that sort of thing. And eventually, if they put that response on their website, then they will have a link back to your site. So it's something that benefits you. You can get that independently, or you can get it for free through Hike. I don't know what the cost is, and I'm not affiliated with either. I use both of them, but I would recommend them if you're interested in that. The other thing you can get for free is ahrefs.com, which is another SEO site. They do a site audit, which is curious because I'm not quite sure how I got this sent out to me for free. They have a sort of 7-day trial, but I think I signed up for it, got some information, and then quit. And they said, oh, do you want to receive the weekly audit anyway of your website? So I went, yeah, okay. So they're sending me one as well. So I'm a little bit overwhelmed with free information on those lines, and sometimes you just don't have much time to action any of them, but I recommend it. And all three of them are good for just getting an overview of what's going on with your site and just picking up if there are any problems at all. I would recommend, for your own sanity and for the sake of feeling that you're not just running on the spot, save the information and the actions that you take in Word or Excel, Google Sheets, or something like that. This is just a way to it's partly to prove to yourself that you spent time doing something, because if you're like me, and I think a number of you are, probably the vast majority of you are technical one way or the other, you kind of feel like you're doing something proper when you're actually doing it, like something technical. But the kind of website-y marketing stuff can feel a bit fluffy, and that you can just kind of get to the end of the day and you go, I'm not sure what the hell I've actually done today that was of any use. You know, this is just kind of no good. And then if I just, oops, a daisy, right, hang on, if I just, where is, hang on. Share. No, wrong one. Curses, hang on. Bear with me. That's the one. Right, lovely. So I've nicked this slide from somewhere else. And it neatly sort of underlines the fundamentals, which is, this was to do with topic cluster specifically, but it actually counts for all SEO really. Relevant external and internal links fuel traffic from the SERPs and pushes you up the SERPs. Backlinks should be strong in relevancy and DA. DA is domain authority. So that's from websites that aren't spammy, that have got highly respected. So you'll find there's all sorts of different ways of categorizing them, but you'll find that most of them go 0 to 100. BBC News will be 99. Google will be 100. You know, my site is currently 12, I think. So, you know, it's getting there. And as they said here, number 3, social shares were not generating meaningful results. And I found that it's just you share and share and share, and you spread stuff around, and it just doesn't matter a damn, unfortunately. And oops, yes, I would recommend 2 Patels, who are both American. One is Sujan Patel, he's quite handy, and Neil Patel, who I think is more useful still. They're good SEO people who are worth following. There's 1,001 out there that you can find. Other freebie stuff that you can use is alexa.com, which was going long before Alexa was created by Amazon, and it is an Amazon site, so I don't know why it was called Alexa, or whether they bought it and then used the name. I don't know. But alexa.com, the site info, tells you what your standings are in the world. It can be quite useful, I find, because sometimes for telling you not so much just what's going on with the search engine results, but also when something isn't. So, for example, I've been looking at educational institutions like Pluralsight, Udemy, Coursera. Udemy and Coursera, both through alexa.com, they've got sites in the top 300 in the world. They've got huge amounts of traffic going to them. They've both got revenue of about $100 million a year, which is huge. There is another one, though, which is Pluralsight. Now, I first heard of Pluralsight through Barclays because they were a client of mine for years on end, and I was there. They hired Pluralsight and got access to all of Pluralsight's training for Barclays. So anyone in Barclays could go along and access any training course in Pluralsight. It's obviously a huge deal, right? There must have been an awful lot of money changing hands on a yearly basis for that. Interestingly, if you look at Pluralsight on alexa.com, they were running at about 32,000th most popular in the world, massively less popular, okay? So in the SERPs, generally speaking, they're coming an awful lot lower, and it's frankly something they should probably look at and fix. But the reason why they're not bothering to do that is because they're going down a different route of doing business-to-business sales directly to Barclays and a whole bunch of other things, which is the reason why I suspect that instead of being finding revenue of 100 million every year, they are just shy of $1 billion. So I don't want to kind of completely crush what I've said as though search engine results don't matter, but you've got to take it in the round. It's just one of the channels that you can get through to actually understanding where you are and getting revenue coming in, of getting visitors. There are a load of different ways, but your website's really important, I think, even if you're not the most popular in the world. Again, for branding purposes, you want people getting to it, you want people talking about it. And I think it was Neil Patel himself who said he realized one day that he's produced so much content on his site that even though he's got 2 people working full time to create more content and to create links back to his website, he realized that this sort of, if you like, the content gravity that he was creating on his site, as people came in and saw the content and they would link to it, and then other people would see it and they would link to it, and it was kind of a, if you like, a slow burning viral explosion, in a sense, of a bloom, of like a mushroom bloom or something. But because of that happening, he was actually getting more links coming in every month, brand new links that he hadn't had before from that content, than was being created by the 2 full-time staff every month working on it to create explicit backlinks. In other words, you've got an asset, you build it so that it's sufficiently big, and then it just grows on its own. As long as that asset, as long as that content remains relevant, it just sort of accretes more and more links coming into it, and like gravity, it just pulls more people into it, which is quite crazy. When he said that, I thought, bloody hell, you know. And the problem is, you know, the ideal time to start was 3 years ago, but that doesn't matter. It's the kind of thing, if you put it off thinking something else is much more important, it's really not, because you've got to do this now, because it's not going to count for another year or two. If it's in a highly competitive marketplace, you'll probably have nothing showing for 18 months. It's crazy just how long term it is. But when it works and it starts to come in, it feels like, you know, you've got free traffic. I've got 60 odd people hitting my website every day. I have no idea why. I mean, I've got some idea, I guess, if I look at it, but I had over 100 Japanese people suddenly hit my website one day, and I have no idea why. I looked through the analytics and they just turned up from nowhere, and just like, well, what the hell are you doing here? You know, I don't know where they came from, but they did. And it's things like that that are just lovely little surprises to have. But it is just a very long journey. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention, which is free as well, GT Metrics. This is a way of assessing your page speed. It's only per page, but it's a way of working out how fast or slow, more to the point, your website is. Again, it's out of well, actually, they don't do it out of 100, but they use something called Google Lighthouse, which is Google's technology for assessing this. But GT Metrics puts a layer on it that makes it a bit more easy to understand what's going on, a bit less technical. It's still something worth digging into. And of course, as you change your website or add certain things on here and there, it will make a difference to what's going on and how fast your page loading is. That matters. It really matters. Your page loading and how responsive your site is on mobiles and how good it is for mobiles, both of them are really critical. And you can't get away with just ignoring it. Even if I have a desktop application for Mac, Windows, and Linux, nobody downloads it on a mobile. Virtually nobody looks at it on a mobile. They look at it when they're at work or on their PC. They don't look at it on their mobile phone. It doesn't matter, because if my mobile site is crap or really slow loading, I will get penalized on the desktop results as well. Google wants everything to look nice and swish and fast on mobiles as well as on PCs and Macs and all the rest of it. So it's really important that looks good and it's responsive, and overall the speed. With GT Metrics, you can run it both 2 times really, one for desktop, one for mobile, and they both need to be good. Mine isn't good enough for mobile at the moment, and I think Google's update is coming in May, where that's going to matter a lot more. It already does matter, but it's going to matter even more. And then you start to get into some of the other things they've got coming along, which are a bit more minor. But those 2 things, the speed and mobile rendering, are really both critically important. As a final point, actually two things. One, the link I'm about to put is done on something called Guru, which is a bit of a generic name, to put it mildly. But Guru is a really good, it's kind of a wiki, but it allows you to mark something as being trusted content for a certain period of time. If you've got a team of people, it's quite handy, because it means that if the validity expires, it will be obvious. I'm not in that situation. I suspect most of you aren't, but it's just a good wiki, and it's free. So if you want a wiki page, a wiki system, that I would recommend that. And finally, I would say, in case you get misled by anything that's out there, hopefully you won't, but CSS and JavaScript don't count except for page speed purposes. When the search engine bots come down and they look at your website, they are only looking at HTML. The reason why some of the first websites, or some of the first ones to really go OTT with JavaScript, stop doing it, is because they had everything punching around in JavaScript, and the search engines just went, can't read it, don't care. So don't worry about CSS and don't worry about JavaScript, except for how much there is. If it's too big and bulky, then your website's got to, the visitor's browser has got to download it, so that's a problem. But apart from that, ignore it. And yes, I think that's it. So yeah, hope that's of some use at least. I've whittled on for far too long. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Paul. That was really in depth and
Yeah, very good.
really interesting. Thank you.
I would say though, CSS, you probably still need to worry about it a bit because you talked about the mobile sites.
Yeah.
And the CSS normally makes your mobile sites look a bit nicer.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Everything you said really makes sense. So some of you may have heard me allude to Morris dancing is something that I do, and I'm the volunteer IT guy of the Morris Federation in the UK. And the president was saying, "Dan, we're so far down the rankings. We're on page 3 for Morris dancing.
Yeah.
What can we do?" And I sort of come along and said, "Well, content is king, I think."
Yeah.
And the Federation, they've got, I don't know, 20 years of quarterly newsletters with loads of wonderful content and photos and events and topic discussions and things all tied up in PDF files.
Oh.
I don't think are getting indexed. Or, yeah, there we are. Yeah, and Matt's showing their website now. And then another one. So we're trying to kick off a project to start getting old articles posted onto the website as pages or posts in their own right.
Yeah.
I'll ask about the post versus pages thing in a minute, but I think that's more a WordPress content management thing. But the other bit then was about performance of the website. So that page Matt's on right now, there's a carousel image on there. And I think if it's your first time going to the site, I think the way that carousel is designed is that it won't show until all like 24 images have been loaded. And there's no optimization on size or anything like that. So you've probably got, I don't know, 20 megabytes of stuff being downloaded. And those are the, there, you can see it now. Those are the things which are hurting us as well. So performance seems to be a big problem. So I'm going to have to deal with the performance stuff, and other people will deal with the content stuff. Yeah, so content I think is really important. But also, so the big problem I see on a lot of websites is where the content moves around. If you've got a big picture at the top, as soon as that's loaded, everything shifts down the page a bit, and that's now starting to get penalised quite a lot as well, because they say the problem is someone might be hitting a cancel button, and just as they go to hit the cancel button, it all moves, and then they hit the buy button or something like that.
Yes, content layout shift, isn't it?
That's the one. Yeah.
CLS. It's I've got something on my site that's doing it, and I'm stuffed if I know what it is. But yes, it's the kind of thing they really don't like, with good reason. But yeah.
Then static site generators seem to be quite popular now. Well, you mentioned about JavaScript.
Yeah.
Right. It used to be a case that the website would download and then code would go off and fetch the content and then render the whole site. But yeah, the search engine crawler, they don't run that code, so they just see essentially a blank site. So that's no good. So things like Next.js and Gatsby now are systems to try and create static sites based off dynamic data that gets around that sort of problem.
Yeah, I've heard something about Next.js, but I've not looked into it massively. There's so many damn frameworks out there. It's like a blizzard, isn't it?
Matt and I are living Next.js at the moment.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and actually one of my most popular pages on my website was about running Next.js on cPanel, because so many Stack Overflow questions seem to suggest it wasn't possible. It is possible, it's just a little bit awkward. So I wrote something up on that, and that now seems to be my busiest page on my website. So that could be the thing. If you have struggled with something for hours and hours and hours, write a blog post about it, because chances are the rest of the world is struggling. And if you can then put together an answer for them, I'm showing my website there. There we go.
Oh, very cool.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much. That was really, really good.
Pleasure.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone else have any questions for Paul? Excellent, thank you very much. Well followed, very difficult SteamET presentation there, Paul, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I go back here, I will post links to the pages that I did find from, that I did follow when Paul was speaking, on the Thanet Technology Facebook page and the meetup page. And if I miss anything, Paul, please correct me. But I'll do that probably after this meeting. Next up is Lee. We've been going for quite a while now, but I'm also aware that we want to crack on. So, but I'll leave the choice up to Lee. Put you on the spot.
Sorry, very briefly, sorry, I put the link in the chat if you want it.
Oh, great.
I'll be quiet now.
I'll include anything that goes in the chat as well. But so I'll ask Lee, would you like a break, or would you like to start with your talk immediately?
No, we can go for it now if you like. I'm hungry for my dinner, so I'm cool. My dinner is calling, so I think, and I've got to cook it, so probably better that I do this.
Very important. So over to you, Lee. Thank you.
Yeah. So I can't actually see myself on the screen because I can. Oh, I've got my. Yeah. Okay. That's cool. So I'm an artist. I work with sound, and I worked with Matt this time last year. Matt built me a system for an installation I made in the foot tunnel at Greenwich, the tunnel that goes under the River Thames. And I had some problems. I wanted to do something. I didn't know how to do it. And I'd heard about this thing called Arduino. And Matt solved this problem for me. And that's how I know Matt. Tim introduced me to him. And he built these Arduino units that were linked together by radio. And I was totally impressed. And then lockdown failed miserably. Yeah, I failed miserably. So coding has always been a bit of an issue. I've never really tried it since then. So as a sound artist, there's problems that come up all the time. And one of them is that you want to be able to plug something in that plays sound. And it just starts playing sound when you turn it on. And it plays the same loop of sound all day. And then it gets turned off. And that's actually quite a difficult thing to buy cheaply online. So when I wanted to learn Arduino, I thought I'll start by making one, by inventing this thing that I've always wanted, which is this auto looping, auto playing sort of sound device. And so I invented this, which probably won't work now, seeing everyone's techniques worked earlier, but we will try.
Track one, track one, track one.
And that will just play all day, and that could have any sound in it. And it was brilliant. I was totally impressed. That cost me about 15 quid in bits, and it worked. And I can just plug it in and it'll play. And there's a little memory card in there. Works on one of these little players, a little DF player, and you put a micro SD card in. So the next thing I invented was this bigger one here, and you can see it's got 6 outputs, and each one of these runs 2 different speakers. And I built this controller thing out of a bit of pipe with a pot, which this time last year I didn't know what that was, and a selection switch at the end. And I probably could demonstrate this kind of working here, and I'll shove this probably in there, and then in here, and there you go. There's a sound, and I can turn it up and down with the volume knob, which is connected to a analog input pin on the Arduino in there, and I can actually change tracks. Track. So there you go. A completely strange thing, and you think, why does this man want to make a device which has volume knob and multi-track changing and 12 outputs? And I used it in a performance I made in Sweden last summer when I managed to escape lockdown for a couple of weeks to Sweden. And I built a suit that had 10 of these speakers, and I could walk around changing the different tracks and turning them up and down with this suit on. And I made a performance in a big steel tank that had a 24-second reverb, and it worked really well. And so I've built another one of these, which is currently in an art gallery in Aberystwyth, and is running a sound installation there. It's been running since December, and I'm going to go and take that down next week, which is my first commission using Arduino, where I've built the hardware for someone. That's at the art school in Aberystwyth. So yeah, that's all been really good fun. And now I've invented this thing, which you can see on the breadboard here. And this, I haven't really named it. It's some sort of blipinator, maybe would be a good name for it. But if you plug this into a speaker, it should, there you go. So it's going. I haven't actually put volume on this one yet, so it's going to go that loud. So maybe I'll have to unplug it to tell you what it does, but it makes this horrible noise. And there you go. So what it does is it's making a pulsing noise, and I can change the pitch of the pulse by moving my hand near this light dependent resistor. So it gets lower, gets higher, and I can change the speed of the, no, that's not the speed. One of these is the speed, hang on. No, I can change the speed with, no, not that one. One of them changes the speed, hang on. Interesting what's going on. It's because I'm holding the pots upside down, I think. All right, so this knob, this one is changing the note length. So I've got a short note length, and then I can get a longer note length. And if I go long enough, it will just turn into one long note. So that one's giving me note length. This pot here is giving me that pot we'll come back to in a sec. This one should do the speed, I think. Yeah, there you go. That pot does the speed, the light does the pitch, and then this knob here, I've put a random number generator in the Arduino, and this will put more randomness. So then it makes the note length and the note pitch and the speed, it varies it, and the more I wind this pot, the more varied it will get. But yeah, there you go. That's the blipinator. That's what I'm working on at the moment. I don't know if it'll get further than the breadboard, but I do want to use it in an installation later in the summer. And so that's my two main Arduino projects that I've got going on here in the bedroom. And there's one, I'm not going to walk you down the shed to show it to you, but the other thing I've built with Arduino is a brewing controller. So I like to brew beer, and I want to keep the temperature of the brewing beer constant. So I've got an Arduino, and I put a temperature sensor on it, which is connected to my barrel of beer, which is brewing. And the beer is in a fridge, and the beer's got a heater on it. And if the beer gets too hot, my Arduino switches the fridge on. And if the beer gets too cold, the Arduino switches the fridge off and it switches the heater on. And it just keeps the beer at a constant temperature while it's fermenting. I call it the warm meister, and it works really well. And I'm astounded every time I drink a pint of that beer that the Arduino helped me brew it. Yeah, so there you go. That's my three main strands of Arduinoing from a complete amateur who, you know, a year ago couldn't have done it. And because of Matt, I kind of can, or Matt and my son. And if you've got any questions, I can try and answer them. And there you go, a brief presentation of one man, lockdown, and a load of Arduino things.
Thank you very much, Lee. Fantastic, creative use of Arduino there. I didn't realise that you've done so much with it. Really cool.
So Lee, hi, it's Tim. I've got a very particular question. I know you're an expert in frogs. Lee, I've just got an allotment this year. I've got a pond, but there's no frogs. Do real frogs respond? If I play electronically through an Arduino or something, the sound of a frog call, would real frogs respond to that?
Yeah, I think it depends what call you put. Like if you put the sound of a male frog defending his territory, you'll probably scare them off, Tim. But if you put a sort of female sounding really sexy, you'll probably attract loads of frogs.
Okay, do those samples all exist on the internet and that? I can get those samples and then put them into...
Yeah, I'll tell you what I did. When I was recording frogs at Romney, I went down with my mate and we weren't having much luck. I went down a lot of times recording them and I was there with my friend and the frogs were being quiet. And he found a recording on his online with his phone. He found a recording of a marsh frog calling and we were playing it out in the middle of Romney Marsh and frogs were answering it. So all we did was get a recording from online and then play it back in the marsh. And they did, whether they came closer, but we just played it out off of a mobile phone. And you could hear them answering. It was quite amazing.
So that's good. That's brilliant. I'm going to go for that. And then the other thing is there's no electricity. So I'm going to have to hook up some kind of solar. In your shed where the beer is, you've got electricity there, I suppose, yeah?
Yeah, I've run it actually. Yeah, I've dug a trench in the garden and run electricity. But I did do a project in Hartlepool a couple of years ago, and it was the Festival of Thrift, it was called, and everything had to be sustainable. And we bought solar panels, and they weren't expensive. If you go to you don't go to someone who sells. There's a few warehouses around the country who sell the raw material that then gets sold to companies that sell solar panels onto people. So you want to find the warehouse. I can probably get the number for you, Tim, actually.
Yes, please.
And we bought raw panels and the raw circuitry and got someone to show us how to connect it all up. And we built this thing and we used it to trickle charge car batteries. So it must have been putting out 12 volts and that would run Arduino and a mini rig. In fact, they must do it. You must be able to step it down to 4.5 or 5 volts and just run everything off of USB level power, actually. You could do that.
Okay, good. I'm going to try.
I'll tell you what you could use, Tim, actually, is a power bank phone charger and one of those small solar panels that people use to charge phones. And then you could trickle charge the power bank and use the power bank to run the speakers and the Arduino. That'd work.
Excellent.
And do it with
looking forward to frog spawn.
Cheers, Lee. I'll let you know if I get any results.
Let me know. Don't use a stroppy male. Get a sexy female frog, man.
Cheers,
well done. It looks fantastic what you've done. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's fun.
I'm using solar with Arduinos in my cabin. Using lead acid batteries and 100-watt cell to charge it up. I actually run a hi-fi off of it, but I'm using an Arduino to measure temperature and transmit that down to the house so I can see how warm the cabin is. You can buy little switching regulators that will drop 12 to 5 to do the Arduino. In fact, you can feed 12 volts into an Arduino. It's got a voltage regulator on it. That's if you've got the standard one.
Yeah, I've found when I run that thing that's got 12 that drives 12 speakers, I have to run that off of 12 volts because if I run it off 5 volts, it won't run all the DF players. It'll only run one of them. But if I put 12 volts in, it just is I don't know why, but the Arduino will drive more media players.
Well, yeah, it depends on how you do it. I mean, so the best way is to use a switching regulator. It's more efficient, and you can transform down and up.
Okay. So are you getting 12 volts from your solar panels, I guess?
Yeah. Solar panels produce best at about 17 volts, a single 12 volt cell. And that, you might have seen MPP chargers. Have you heard of those? Maximum power point chargers. And they optimize the charging so that the cell is producing its best output. Okay. And my system, I've got a control cabinet with the MPP that charges a 12-volt 10-amp-hour lead-acid battery. And I also use it to charge 2 7-amp-hour batteries, which I use to drive a hi-fi system that I've got in the cabin. I am an electrician, but I didn't want to run a cable to the cabin, and I was just thought the running it off of solar would be so much better. And it's working quite well. And I can sit up there for an evening with a few beers and listen to me hi-fi.
Right.
And the hi-fi itself, it runs, the amplifier itself uses 19 volts. So I use a step-up converter for that. And also I use a dropper converter to drive a Raspberry Pi that's got a high-quality DAC on the top of it, which has also got a switch mode amplifier in. And that drives a pair of floor-mounted speakers. Very nicely as well, very hi-fi.
Bob, can you drop a few links in the chat or something so I can?
Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Margate.
Well, I'm in Ramsgate.
Well, I can't get to you, can I, Bob?
No. Well, I'm not.
Give me the chat, and I'll just get my step-up converter, or whatever you're calling it, a switching regulator or something. I don't really know any what these things are, but
right.
But they're not expensive, are they?
It's all peanuts. It's lovely.
Yeah. I'd be really interested to.
How can I contact? Have you got an email address?
Yeah.
Can you be simple and give it to me over the chat, please?
Yeah, I'll stick it in now.
I've recently read a magazine that talked about using solar panels to power this kind of electronics. So there is stuff out there, certainly. But I think it's tea time for Lee. So perhaps now is a good time to say thank you very much for that really interesting talk.
Cheers, Lee.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for putting me on, mate. It made me get everything together and think about what I've been doing. And I realised I've done quite a lot. I just thought I hadn't done very much. I was like,
it's impressive what you've done in a year.
It's a lot of it's because my son's, because of lockdown, my son came home and he could just help me with the coding, which helps so much to have someone who was confident at coding in the next room. And so when I was getting stuck, I could go to him and he was helping me out. It really, really helped me out a lot, actually.
Arduino coding, C coding is a bit abstract when you get started, isn't it?
Yes,
it's hard to see the flow of it.
It is, yeah, it's weird. But there's something really euphoric when it works. I get a total buzz from when it works. It's really, I find it really satisfying.
I call that the code guru moment. You can spend 10 hours trying to get to it and it lasts maybe a couple of minutes and then you're back to the next problem, but it's worth it.
You're a proper geek, Matt, man.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Lee, and thank you very much, Paul and John and the SteamX. It's been really good.
A great evening. It's excellent.
Yeah. So that was Lee beginning, well, quite a long way down the path of joy with the Arduino. Maybe one day you'll be able to come up with a product like this one here. So I'm back to the mystery item that I showed you at the beginning before the talks. So for those that haven't seen it, it's labeled as an electric hook with a 5-volt with a USB input. So
is it an input or is it an output?
It's an input. I will give you that clue now.
Okay, I thought it's going to be some sort of charger.
Does it weigh things, Matt? Can you weigh what's on the hook?
That's a great idea. Yeah, I thought earlier on you'd be able to tell if your keys are in your pocket if it weighed your jacket, but it's not that.
No, it's not that. Okay.
But
can you heat the collar of a jacket?
Oh, even better. This is good.
Very targeted heating.
You have a very warm middle bit.
Yeah, I love the nape from the neck being really warm.
No, that is not its purpose, but genius product ideas coming out here. Maybe there's time to get it made for Christmas. No, I have got a video of it working. I won't make you sit through the video, but I'll show you a still of it if I just bring this up. Okay. BigClive.com is a brilliant website. It just takes stuff apart.
Brilliant, lovely guy.
Yeah, and tells you how it's terrible or good. You know, how a car charger might blow up and take your eyebrows with it, kind of thing. And it goes into real detail on how things work. But this has a heating element inside the hook that when you plug it in, if I find, you can see here, that's the heating element. Can I zoom in a bit? There we go. So I nearly pointed with my finger there. That large dot there is actually melty glue. So when you plug the hook in, it melts the glue and you can stick it to lots of stuff.
Ah, okay.
But then you can plug it in again and it heats it up for longer so you can remove it. Which is actually pretty cool, really, if you think about it. So here in this video, he's stuck it to a bit of glass, and it is a really strong connection. And then he plugs it back in for about 70 seconds, and it comes off, leaving a massive stain, but at least it comes off. That is the mystery object this month, which no one guessed, not surprisingly.
Matt, let's do this every Thanet Technology meeting. Do one of these. It's good.
Yeah, you can't do any better than that. That's it.
No, there's loads of weird, wacky
And
shit.
you know what? It would still heat the collar of a jacket.
It would also do that.
in a quite a gluey kind of way. But you put your coat back on and that's it for winter. You'd have to stay in it.
Yeah, do one every time, Matt. It's good. I like that. Cool.
Yeah. Well, if anyone finds any products that they would like featured in a mystery product shop, please send me links. And another thing I wanted to try was oh yes, before I move on, next month's I've got a talk next month from a guy called Andy Stanford Clark, and there's his blurb, but he's actually got his own Wikipedia page. So he's quite famous because he is the co-inventor of MQTT, which is a pretty fundamental message queue technology used in IoT. And John Hislop asked him to talk, so thank you very much, John. But he's going to talk about a collection of Internet of Things gadgets, and he knows Internet of Things. He kind of invented a big part of it. So I think we're quite lucky to have some of his time, just like we were with you three.
So that's next month, Matt. I've got an artist I know who uses MQTT a lot, Sean
Excellent.
Clark in Leicester. I'll try and get him to do a talk as well. He loves talking.
Perfect. That would be great.
When is it? In 1 month's time, is it?
25th of March, 7
All
p.m.
right. I'll try and get Sean up for that, Matt. I'll let you know.
Great stuff. And I think he's a pretty practiced speaker as well. John's seen him, and which is why he reached out to him. And then I was going to do some news, but I had a look for local tech news, and all I got was a bit of a shortage of PlayStation 5s, which left me a bit cold. But yeah, locally, the technology news is there aren't any PlayStation 5s available. There's I think are our Australians still on, or have they gone?
Oh, they're still here. Yeah.
Julie and Joe, I'd be really interested to know if that Facebook Google Australian state battle has affected you in any way.
Not really. We try to keep well away from social media. Sorry, Paul.
So do I.
Thank you, by the way, Paul. We use some of those techniques that you mentioned. While I'm talking, I'd just like to thank John for having inviting us, and hello everyone, having the girls on. That was absolutely fantastic, John.
Yeah.
They have come such a long way. Well done, mate. But no, I don't know where that's heading here. I think they've reached an agreement with the government, which of course we don't know what it is yet, and it's probably spending lots of our money for some reason, or not getting a good deal with them. That's just the way governments work. But that'll pan out in the future in some time. Lee, I thought your presentation was excellent with the Arduinos.
Yeah, that were
marvelous,
really good.
Marvelous inventions. Well done, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. It's very kind.
Excellent. Yeah, so the news, yes. So there was some interesting developments in Bitcoin with Elon Musk buying millions of pounds, if not, was it $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin or something like that? A massive investment, which is a bit of a, taken as a bit of a signal of the Bitcoin currency maturing a bit. And I believe there's some developments that will come to pass in maybe about a year's time that would make Bitcoin a genuine competitor to the normal fiat type currencies. So it feels to me like, certainly for Bitcoin, there's a bit of a transform, a bit of an inflection point coming up, kind of huge success or dropping off. I don't know. I'd be interested to see what other people feel about that, and also things like Ethereum, which is a bit like Bitcoin, but it's based on blockchain, but it also can, because you can embed code in it, it can support smart contracts and a lot more interesting functionality than just value transactions. And there are things
it's a lot
going
faster as well, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's a lot faster.
Yeah, well, that is a problem for Bitcoin transactions, in that Visa happens immediately. Bitcoin, to be sure it's gone through, you have to wait half an hour or so for the blockchain to move on. But it's a really interesting area, this cryptocurrency world, and I think it's hotting up quite a lot. So that's why I wanted to highlight this. Then, of course, there's NASA's Mars Perseverance landing, which is a remarkable moment in all of our history, really. But when I was reading about it a little bit deeper for tonight, the follow-on plans for another couple of missions to go back out to Mars and retrieve samples from Perseverance and bring back bits of Mars to Earth for more analysis is incredible. And all of their plans to put a persistent human presence on the moon, and that seems to be yet another sort of inflection point in the seriousness of space exploration. And the last bit of news was this COVID roadmap announced in the UK on Monday. I think you Australians are all footloose and fancy free and can do almost anything you would do normally pre-COVID in your swimming trunks and t-shirts.
We can go back into lockdown at any time.
Yes.
Just watch us.
We are they are lowering some degrees. I think they're not making.
Well, we might
masks.
not have to use masks. So,
just when we go to let's say the supermarket, we have to have a mask on, but anywhere else it's not. And the government wants us back in the workplace because all of us, well, most of us have been working from home. And so I think on Monday is kind of making sure that everyone's safe and can go back to work. And yeah.
Brilliant. But in the UK, I think I didn't really pay that much attention to it because it might not happen on the dates that they said. It's no earlier than, say, April the 12th. We might be able to get takeaway beer from a pub, for example. Or, but I just wanted to highlight its effect on the Thanet Technology meetup, because we used to meet up in pubs and that kind of thing. And I would like to meet up in where I am now in the Geekery. But regardless of this roadmap, I think it's going to be a tentative comeback. And I think 12th of April will still be a bit early, even if we're possibly allowed to. But I just wanted to bring that up to see if anyone had anything to say about it, about how they feel about this roadmap, and maybe the possibility of meeting up as a Thanet Technology group in the near future.
I mostly ignored the roadmap, to be honest. I just think it's all up for debate, and they'll change their mind next week. I won't believe it until it happens, and then I will be in the pub.
Yes.
But the nice thing though is these talks we're having, so that would be more difficult to do at the pub. So it'd be nice to have it in two parts.
True.
Have a presentation, a bit of a chat on a technical subject where, you know, slightly more formal, and then we all leg it to the pub after that. That would work nicely.
Definitely.
And I'll probably keep the hybrid nature, so have it accessible via Zoom, or maybe Google Live, YouTube Live or something like that, as well as allowing people to physically come to the Geekery to partake.
But if you notice that there are 6 other people in the pub all watching a video with headphones on, maybe we could just put it on the TV.
Yeah. But yes, I think the event, and then leg it to the pub or open a couple of tinnies or something like that, whatever, might be a good format, but we'll see. Interested to see what you thought to all of that.
Good idea.
Cool. Actually, I've been working with an organization that is trying to understand how to do hybrid events using Zoom, and some the software I'm using for my feed is OBS Studio. It's what most of the YouTubers use, for example. So it's open source, free software, but it's very, very stable, powerful software and all that. It's used a lot. And it allows you very easily to do multicam and proper audio and all sorts of stuff. So I'm kind of playing around with that for a project, as well as for this, which will be useful for this Thanet Technology thing as well. Okay. Any other news or anything like that that anyone's particularly interested in? Genetic Moo, you've gone. You've gone live with was it a special social media account for your micro worlds?
Yeah, so we do. We're linked up with a group called Lumen Art Projects, and we've got a show in Norway in May.
Right. Well, hey.
Unbelievable. Obviously, it's all going to be remote, but it is our first job of the lockdown, so that's pretty exciting. So they, as part of it, they're running.
The contract's not been signed yet. It's signed next week.
Yeah, but nevertheless, we were holding our breath.
It's a big job.
Yeah, so it'll be. So we got Arts Council funding to make COVID secure micro worlds. So we make an interactive exhibition, and we've been experimenting with different technologies. Matt's been involved to make it safe. And so the Instagram account has been set up by them. I feed them material, and then wonderful young woman who's based in Ann Arbor in America is running the social media account, which is why it's perhaps a little bit more friendly.
We're
and
going international.
I know, it's a big step up, that.
America. We've had one show in America, we didn't go, but we're trying to get a bit more. And China, everywhere.
Right.
Fantastic. Congratulations, Genetic Moo.
Thank you very much.
Was that new? Was it news broadcast?
Yeah, no, it's just any news. Yeah, so if you haven't signed up to it, go to microworld.art on Instagram.
We want to crack Australia because Australia is the best place in the world for digital art. We almost had a job a few years back and then it fell through. But I'd love to do a job in Australia. I think there's some Australian people there, yeah. Them two there.
Yeah, Juliet.
Is that right? Australia is the best place in the world for digital art, isn't it?
I have no idea. Come on down and find out.
The thinking is because you've got no proper art yourself, because you're such a young country, you have to go for the new stuff, the digital stuff.
Yeah, we've got no proper art.
Excuse me.
It is.
We've got the oldest art in the world with the Aborigines.
Exactly, but it's in terms of new media technology, Australia was doing it before most places in the world. So it's a very important place, in fact, for
Sydney, Melbourne, yeah, really, yeah. That's what I've heard. I've never been to Australia. I'd love to go there. But...
There's more art in John's lounge room than in our entire country, I would say. Thanks to Lorna. And yeah, the Aboriginal art, it's all those little dots. That's very pointillistic.
Yes, but
John Hislop, have you not got any furniture in your flat? It's a bit barren, isn't it? Is that on mute, isn't he?
Muted, John.
Probably just as well.
Joe said we got a lot of pre-Raphaelite pictures in the lounge.
Okay. Cool,
Okay.
Cool. I'm out of here. Cheers, everyone.
Anyway, it's been lovely to see you all.
Nice meeting you.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So that's the end of the formal bit of the Thanet Technology meetup. Let me just I need a big red button to do this, really. Thank you to the speakers. It's been wonderful. I've really enjoyed it this time. So I'm going to keep going with this approach of trying to get people to speak each week, and the mystery object seemed to go down very well. So I'll do another one of those. If you have anything that you come across that you think might make a good mystery object, please submit it for consideration. And excellent. So I propose that maybe we have a break if anyone wants to hang around for a bit of chat and social. Otherwise, lovely to see you all and meet for the first time, Julie and Jay.
Yes, thank you for having us,
yes.
Matt. And we've had a lot of fun, certainly.
And learned a lot.
Well,
You've got
that's
to
what
come
it's
to
all
the
about.
next meeting with this Andy chap from IBM. If you look at the link and his glow orb, he's done a lot of cool stuff.
Okay.
Yeah,
My dinner's calling, so I'm going to say goodbye to you all. And yeah, nice to meet you on here and see you another time. And thanks a lot, Matt.
Cheers. Thank you, Lee.
Lovely.
Cheers.
Yeah, I have to head off as well, but really enjoyed the talks. So yeah, look forward to next month as well. Lovely.
Cheers.
Bye,
Cheers,
everyone.
Dan. Bye-bye.
Lovely. Myself as well. It's been fun. Good to see you. Cheerio.
Hey, Bob, I didn't recognize you at all.
I'm going to say good night as well. So good to see everyone, and speak to you next month.
Cheers, Steve.
Cheers.
Right, Max, you're with Radio Amateurs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's how you know each other. Did you meet each other on the airwaves?
Joe and Julie came to England a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's a very social place to be. This radio
We've been
hub.
talking about STEM for a long time, John, now.
Yes. Joe and Julie, very keen on amateur radio in schools. Excellent website.
Well, what's your website?
Sarcnet.org, sarcnet.org. I'm not sure that we're doing everything Paul suggested.
Yes.
It was hard to follow. It's pretty complicated stuff, and half the things you hear, then you hear they don't work.
Oh, it's a nightmare, isn't it?
Actually, he showed a graph that said some lady there had a site up for a year and a half and nothing happened, and she was about to give up, and then all of a sudden it just exploded, and that's where we are today.
Don't give up, you're nearly there.
Yes.
We've just started an on-air net every day at 2 o'clock, 0300 UTC. And it's a RAG-tune net. We just talk about anything really, but of course we put in a plug every so often. Basically our goal is to get other individual amateur radio operators or amateur radio clubs interested in going to schools and putting on, say, a demonstration, all the way through to having a weekly school amateur radio club. And Julie's done that at 3 schools, but now that we're retired, we need to get other people to follow suit, and that's the hard part. That's the hard part.
But, you know, as long as we're on the air, using the airways and people out there.
We often get people who have some interest or have some connection or whatever, and it's just a matter of converting that into something useful. Amateur radio is a fantastic resource for schools. You know, they get a qualified person presenting to the students, and there's a lot of different facets of amateur radio that fits in with the curriculum. We do primary schools, so, you know, we get kids from 5 to 12, and whereas other people do secondary schools and universities even with amateur radio.
But we went out to a national park a couple of years ago with the whole school, and that was exciting in one sense and frightening in another, you know, dealing with all those children.
It's amazing the enthusiasm they have for technology, and we use, it's not about amateur radio so much, it's about science and technology, trying to help the teachers with resources and activities that they can use. We do Science Week, you know.
Anzac Day.
Yeah, different events during the year, but of course last year was a complete disaster for that. So
and the schools at the moment are not kind of up, but you know, not running 100%. They're still waiting. So I think it's a good time to you know, plant the seed in some organisation that you know, or club that you know, maybe we could do that when we get back, when it gets back to normal, whenever that might be.
They call it COVID normal.
COVID normal. Oh.
Which means a lockdown every couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah. But yeah, one of the questions that we seem to ask of an afternoon is when did you become interested in technology or radio? And it's very interesting.
The answer's always the same. Quote, when I was 5 years old, my parent gave me something to pull apart or a radio to tune into or something like that. And, from then I got interested into science and then perhaps later on amateur radio, that sort of thing. But these days there's nothing like that. And there's, except John, what you're doing, that sort of thing, you have to actually push some of that technology into the schools so that they can get involved at an early age. And they, really they like to do it as a challenge or an activity that's not so much about it's a school lesson, but it's something, there's a mission. A lot of the events that you get them involved in, John, is fantastic because there's other kids involved doing something. So
yeah, it's doing and learning.
Oh,
Oh,
another 50 minutes gone. Money in the meter, Matt.
Yeah, I think that was Lee's sound system burbling away when he's not in the room. But I'm looking at your missions page on your website there.
Not too many missions, but the idea of those is that we take the kids out and we run a search and rescue mission. If you click on that one, and so we'll take them to a national park, and the whole school gets involved in amateur radio direction finding to find the location of a downed aircraft in bushland. And,
first aid.
And they do bushwalking, navigation, first aid, and they rescue the survivors. And anyway, they've got a story to tell when they come back.
It's a really interesting kind of mashup of technical activity with other activities like navigation and physical exercise. And
yes,
really
it is. It is, and they get on the radio, and we actually get another amateur on HF to be the National Control Centre for Search and Rescue Centre, and he's coordinating we set up a base camp, and then there's another group that goes off and does the hiking, and then they take it in turns, and
they change over.
There are a lot of different frequencies and a lot of different VHF, UHF, repeaters, HF. There's a lot of different links going on, and they get to do different activities for a day.
That sounds like a huge thing to have developed and be able to set up. It must have taken you a long time to get to that point, being able to do that.
No, you just bring some stuff along to the bush and wing it.
In true engineer fashion, it'd be all right. I can't do Australian accents, but I can't even do my own accent half the time. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, we have a lot of projects on that site that we started due to the clubs, and a lot of them have taken off. We've done nearly 1,000 people have downloaded software for our satellite trackers, and there's a guy in VK4. He's Matt. He has a school there.
Oh,
there's your lot, John.
Yeah.
So there, the picture down below, that was tracking satellites at school. So solar-powered satellite tracking installation, and they're doing it for a while, and then somebody asks, "Where's the satellite?" And and you say, "Look up along that antenna. It's up there in the sky." Oh.
Lesson learned, right there.
Exactly. How does it stay up there?
Matt, if you go to, yeah, that's the one. See if you can find Alice and Caitlin in that picture.
I recognise her. Oh, there's one.
Yeah.
Oh, blimey.
What's Izzy doing these days, John?
I don't know. Mother is too worried about her GCSEs.
Oh, yes, of course. And Freya?
Yeah, shame.
That was a great group. There she is. Teaching the boys how to do stuff. How about that?
Right, yeah.
Oh, they're great, John. They really are. It's a real credit to you.
Wonderful.
They've all got their QSL cards there, and they're DFing some interference.
So, Matt, what do you say? Get your license?
Oh, maybe.
Oh, maybe. Oh, it wasn't a no then.
How's it Margate, John?
Yes.
Hmm?
Yeah, some electronics with some of the NLI guys. Yeah.
You still go to the Turner Centre?
No. Back to the lifeboat station in May for SOS Radio Week.
Okay.
Yeah. And who knows, the girls might be doing Morse by then. Yeah. Did you know there's Morse on the Mars rover?
I saw that post. I'll have to have a look at that.
Yeah. Explore as one, but it's very weird the way they've done it. They've put dots and dashes side by side rather than in the line. It's a bit weird. So.
Okay.
Yeah. And ASCII in the parachute, isn't it? ASCII code in the parachute. So there you go. Yeah.
What's the next event for you, John?
Oh, well, this Saturday, the girls will be doing the Astro Pie. They'll be doing their greetings message to the astronauts. Okay. Yeah, so we meet up at 4 o'clock and we'll do it together. So I get something from them. If I say to them, go away and do it, they don't do it. So we do it together.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what's HRS doing given this current crisis? Are they having meetings or?
Well, not really, no. We should be having a meeting tonight. Thursday is club night. But I've not heard anything.
Most of our clubs have shut down temporarily. We're doing one Zoom meeting like this for the, there's an amateur radio homebrew group at Amateur Radio Victoria. That's on Saturdays. That's a good group. But they can't fit, you know, the space in the club room isn't enough for more than about 5 people. So normally there's a dozen or more.
Rob said that we might go to a park,
oh, we can do that.
you know, and have it at the park because it's open.
We'll set up our portable station and broadcast.
So,
But we might be able to meet in the summer because this lockdown ends, as I said, on the summer solstice.
So you say, and how is the old vaccine going? Is it successful?
Oh, very much so, yes, yeah.
Do they have evidence of that?
Bob's had his second jab, haven't you, Bob?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I just had one.
So if you've got COVID and you're in ICU, do they give you a vaccine then? Does it help?
Oh, what do you know?
No, I don't think they do. It's just
preventative.
because we're not allowed to meet up with anyone just because we've had the jab, and I've had mine a while.
So you've had the jab and you're safe, but then other people may not have had the jab. So you've still got to worry about that.
They think it reduces the transmissivity.
Yes.
So if someone with the vaccine does get COVID, it doesn't transmit as easily, but they don't really have
actually reduce the symptoms though. If you've got it, is it any good if you've got it?
I think the horse has bolted by then, but I think they've got other treatments that they and other drugs that they're getting a better handle on how to treat people who are very poorly with it. So the mortality rate is going down.
We finally started vaccinations, and the first thing they did was give 2 elderly people an overdose. They gave them the whole bottle, which was like 4 or 5 vaccinations, and the doctor got sacked and the CEO of the company got sacked.
Wow.
What a disaster.
You know, they didn't read.
But over here, it's gone surprisingly well.
Oh,
very well.
They've done over 15, 16 million people
good.
since what, February, January, sometime whenever it was. They've started doing people in their 30s and 40s who are particularly vulnerable because of pre-existing medical conditions.
Yes.
Because they've done everyone above a certain age. I don't know which camp Bob and John fall into, the 30s or 40s or older than that, but
I was lucky to get mine. The doses I had were doses that were intended for people that didn't turn up. So we had a phone call late in the day. If we wanted some, we had to get to the surgery very